This week on To the Contrary.
First, Obama and Clinton. Should she run against him on working women's issues? Then, asylum for immigrant victims of domestic abuse. Behind the headlines, shelters for the children of Indian sex workers.
I'm Bonnie Erbe. Welcome to the Contrary, a discussion of news and social trends from diverse perspectives. Up first, in honor of Labor Day, Obama, Clinton, and working women.
This week, President Obama touted his administration's support for women and girls. He cited his efforts to fight pay discrimination and promote a comprehensive working families agenda that includes family-friendly workplaces. Hillary Clinton supporters also promoted the former Secretary of State's record on women and girls as her top priority at the State Department. Clinton and Obama will both appear at a DNC Women's Forum next month, and the question is, should she run with or against Obama's record on working women's issues? Recently, Clinton has been critical of President Obama's foreign policies. Other Democratic Senate and House candidates are running away from him, too.
So, Betsy Mullins, welcome to the show. Should Hillary, assuming she's running, be running away from the president on working women's issues or with him?
She should run on her own record. That's what she has. She doesn't need to rely on another president for her record.
Oh, I believe that it's going to be difficult for her to erase the incumbency, so to speak. She was part of that administration, and she's going to have to answer to the things that happened during it.
Well, I think she needs to contrast herself to him. She has to be her own candidate. I think that the issue for her is going to be how to navigate that in a way that she's her own person and take all the best of Obama and all the best of Hillary Clinton.
So, Bonnie, for the past 60 years, our country's had a natural tendency to rotate the presidency between parties. And I think no matter how much Hillary distances herself from Obama, she's going to have a shadow cast over her campaign no matter what.
Well, she's been doing it pretty successfully on foreign affairs so far. How can she tell us, what has President Obama done on working women's issues particularly, and how can she do more or different?
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, the administration issued a statement in which they listed 46 programs that range from programs from the Department of Labor in terms of pay equity, Department of Defense, equity issues, and also combat policies, and all the State Department policies that Hillary listed also as her own accomplishment. So this is an administration that has a really solid record on women. And I think she just needs to build on it. She has her own experiences as a first lady, as a senator. And so she has a lot of domestic experience that she can also bring to bear when she's describing what she's going to be able to do for women.
Betsy.
I think one of the things you have to keep in mind is you're comparing apples and oranges. That Obama has the entire federal government at his calling. She was in the Senate for 8 years. She sat on foreign affairs, and she was on defense and environment. Those are very different issues and not as easy to get working women's issues into it. You look at what she's done at the State Department, though, and she pushed very hard every trip she had to make sure that there was some kind of an accomplishment for women in the nation she was going to. You look at the diversity of what she did. She looked at girls in Africa. She worked on trade missions in Asia. All of these things, I think, is something she can talk about as she starts to run.
And what advice would you be giving her?
I want to say, dear Hillary, tell me 10 things that you differ with from President Obama on. Tell me that. That's going to make my job much harder because I'm going to try to link her to this president as much as possible. I'm going to talk about a third term.
Well, Fox, right, exactly. On Fox News, they're already calling it Obama's third term.
I mean, in a way, we look at that and we say, these are the same policies we're going to come through. There's going to be a bit of the brain drain there. Like, how are they going to get the best people out of their party when you've already had 2 terms with your guy? So it's going to be a very tough case. She's darned if she does, she's darned if she doesn't, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, I think it's great to support women's issues and to make sure that we implement laws that are, that are supportive of women's needs. That being said, I think it's important for, if she should run, that she also use her other assets, so to speak. She was in the State Department. She needs to say what she did while she was there. Was she successful? I mean, having a list of 46, programs implemented, we don't, necessarily know how successful or not successful they are. We don't know the outcomes yet, and we probably won't know for a very, very long time. But I think it is important for her, should she decide to run, that she's going to have to show that she's a all-encompassing candidate, not just on one issue alone.
Yeah, and I would say my issue with Obama is not so much with his policies as his governing. I really think he's been very weak on governing. And that was always a concern. I was a big Hillary supporter. And until the very end, and I felt that was my big concern with him. And it came true. He was not someone that had experience. She has vast experience. And she's shown that she's a good administrator. She was a good Secretary of State. She was an effective, powerful senator. So she has to build on that record of she is a very effective person in all the jobs that she's held.
Let's switch to women running for the Senate. And, of course, the big question politically right now is will the Senate remain in Democratic hands or switch over to Republican? Mm-hmm. And I've seen polls, for example, Kay Hagan, one poll out this week showed her 2 points ahead of her Republican challenger in North Carolina, whereas a month ago she was 10 points behind. What's going on there?
I think people are beginning to wake up. Labor Day is traditionally the start of any campaign, and when you look at it, many of these people have heard nothing but negatives as the outside money has been flooding into some of these targeted states. I think what you're going to see is not so much women candidates making the difference, but women voters, because traditionally women voters have gone more likely to Democratic candidates. There was a survey that was just done by Crossroads, which is Karl Rove's group, which acknowledges this. It talks a great deal about how the Republican Party is seen as out of touch and insensitive to women's issues. I think that will play into this race more than any individual candidate.
What about the other women senators? How is, for example, Louisiana senator doing, who had who was having Mary Landrieu, who was having a really terrible time for a while?
I would never use Louisiana as any kind of example for the rest of the United States. They have a different election cycle that it likely will go to a runoff, at which case all bets are off, because then it becomes a national effort to either save the Senate or save us from the nightmare of party switchers. There'll be so much money flooded in there come November that who knows what's going to happen down there.
The Democrats didn't expect to have these seats in play. The Republicans, if you ask me, we're going to win the Senate. We are. I mean, the Democrats are going to have to come at this with a lot of money, with this unexpected new seats up for grabs, really. The Republicans are going to take them over. I don't know what that's going to mean moving forward for women. I do hope this encourages women to run and say, look, we've got both houses. Let's do this. Let me step up to the plate. And that's where I really want to see more women candidates.
Who do you think the weakest Democratic women senators are?
Oh, the weakest. It's very difficult for me to come out and say. I really don't want to nail anybody. Right now, Landrieu is a big one. I mean, the residency issue, that's a big one. So I'm going to navigate.
And Obama, well, is Obamacare still a big issue in these states?
I don't think it's a big issue in every state. So what we're doing is messaging off of Obamacare now. We're talking about how we can rip it apart piecemeal, okay? And we know we can't repeal and replace at this point. We're just going to rip it apart over the years, and that's what's going to have to happen.
Yeah, you were talking about having more women candidates, and I really hope that we start to see that trend. It's unfortunate that I think so many women who might be interested in running in politics don't get the financial support. Mm-hmm. Particularly, I have to say, even in the GOP, they're not very supportive of women candidates or minority candidates, for that matter. I mean, it's always looking at who can win rather than, lifting people up so that they can at least have the opportunity to run. If they don't win, they don't win, but the fact is you want to get your message out, and I think that, it'd be wonderful to see more women in that role.
Yeah.
All right. Let us know what you think. Please follow me on Twitter at Bonnie Erbe or at To The Contrary. Now to domestic violence, which is being taken more seriously by U.S. society. 2 developments this week prove it.
First, the NFL toughened its policy against players who engage in domestic abuse, reacting to criticism of a 2-game suspension for Baltimore running back Ray Rice. The league will now suspend offenders for 6 games the first time and a lifetime ban for a second offense. And for the first time, an immigration board has ruled that a victim of domestic violence may be granted asylum in the United States. The case involves a Guatemalan woman who fled her abusive husband and her country in 2005. She says the local police offered her no support or security. While her case will be heard, there's no guarantee she will win. She and thousands of others similarly situated must first prove they were abused and that their countries don't protect them from abuse. Immigration lawyers say these cases take many years to decide, while plaintiffs are allowed to remain in the U.S.
So let's start first with the asylum issue and then get to the NFL. Is this a victory for women in the sense that it is now spousal abuse or partner abuse, domestic violence is being taken more seriously by immigration courts?
I think so, definitely. It's reflective of the fact that, yes, these women are at risk. Asylum is about protecting someone from almost imminent death. And so we had, for political reasons, race, religion, all sorts of others, and domestic violence has been a struggle to have it recognized. So this decision, although many interpret as very narrowly focused, only impacting Guatemalan women who are in relationships that cannot leave, and also in a context in which the government is unwilling or unable to protect them, then will be able to seek asylum. It's definitely a victory.
Patricia, I have to take issue with the narrow focus here because I think that's exactly that. It's going to open the floodgates here. Now, I, like every other woman out there, we never want to be and treat our victims of domestic violence poorly. And coming from other countries still, we have a responsibility to help those. This is a safe harbor for those women, but we don't want to start things that can open the floodgates in the years to come.
You're a lawyer, so not an immigration lawyer, but trained as a lawyer. How do you prove abuse, particularly if you don't have pictures taken at the time?
Well, that's the reason why
the police aren't gathering evidence.
Yes, I take my comment to you, or my response to your comment of floodgates. It's in immigration, particularly asylum. It's going to be really hard to open floodgates because you need to present evidence, and it's hard. It's very hard.
But
you have witnesses.
What about this aspect, which was widely reported, that they're saying that just the admission that this will be taken as a factor is letting thousands, maybe tens of thousands, I do not know.
No, this has been going on for a while.
No, but it's letting them stay in the country until this issue is resolved, which the immigration lawyers were saying was a victory for these women because the longer they stay in the country, the more likely they are to get citizenship.
So there are two different questions here. Yes, you're right. If you are eligible to apply for asylum, then you can stay. Yes, and the people that are able to justify that they have a credible case, they're going to be able to stay. Then there is how do you prove your case, which become a harder level of proof, particularly because political prosecution is much easier to document because it's in a larger context than domestic violence, which is in a more personal context. So that's the next challenge. If this body of law is going to go anywhere in terms of really protecting these women.
Well, I certainly, my heart goes out to any woman who's a victim of domestic abuse, but I have to agree with Rina. I'm concerned that, the door is going to open not only for these women from Guatemala, but from all other countries. And not that we should turn everyone away or take everyone in. We really need to find a cohesive plan where we can maybe educate and help these countries to understand how to treat these, issues and to do it correctly, as opposed to saying, well, you can come and live here and, we're not going to worry about what's going on, where you left.
My bigger concern is the overall immigration system and how it is broken right now. And it's not just a matter of women suffering from domestic violence, but women are encountering all kinds of problems getting into this country, even when they have a great deal to contribute to the country. And while I am happy about the case that was decided this week, we shouldn't be planning our immigration policy based on one court case here, one slight change there. We need to open the thing up and start over again.
Start over how?
Comprehensive immigration. I know it's a dirty word up on the Hill, but at some point they have to take this up.
Spell that out for what in that package? What do you want?
Everything. You have highly skilled workers, you have families who want to be reunited with the rest of their family. All of these different communities are running into problems. Many of the systems are outdated. We have systems where there's a per country limit, how many people are allowed in from a particular country each year. Things like that are so antiquated, and they don't reflect the existing population in other countries, that it ends up becoming a real problem for people who are trying to get in. So just start the system over.
I think what a great many people have problem with, on at least my side of things, I can tell you, is these pathways to citizenship, which are talked about. And it's like, you know, you've got legal, skilled workers who can really contribute to our economy here. And then you've got illegal folks who, you know, where do we stop in giving these people the same pathway to citizenship? Are they all, I guess, deserving, so to speak? So that's what's at the crux of the matter here.
But I would never leave out the fact that the illegal workers who are here are contributing a great deal to our economy.
They do.
They keep a lot of wages suppressed.
And it's a challenge, Bonnie, because it is a very complex issue. And I think you can understand both sides, even as someone who's very supportive of the bill that was passed in the Senate. But we're not having a logical debate. We're having a very dysfunctional debate. It's perfectly illustrating the dysfunctionality of Congress. So that's the bigger problem for me. Not only that we're not unable to have immigration reform, so we have, you know, the decisions coming out of the BIA, we have Obama trying to have executive orders, and we don't have a comprehensive approach. And it's the dysfunctionality of the political system.
My concern, the more exceptions to the rules go out the window.
Without a doubt.
And it's just, there has to be a point where we have to really, hone in on this and to really manage it better. And I don't know, redoing the system. I don't agree with the comprehensive immigration per se, but we do need to have really set rules in stone. We had them at one point. You had to come into this country a specific way. You had to, wait in line like everyone else, and now we're just making these exceptions because people are illegally running through the borders.
All right, let's switch over to the NFL in the little time we have left. I heard reactions from "this is great" to wait a second, there should be a lifetime ban on the first offense. Why wait till the second offense?
I think it's great that the NFL, the commissioner, has spoken out. It's unfortunate because domestic violence is not just prevalent in the NFL. There, baseball, basketball. There are a number of players who've been, in trouble for it. And so I think that it's great that the issue is being more discussed. It's sad to me because I saw local television stations and a lot of the men, unfortunately, who were asked, well, what do you think about this? And they go, well, if he's a good player, maybe, it was just one mistake. He won't do it again. Right. And he's a human being, and it's possible he could do it again. And it frustrates me that when Ray Rice had this incident of domestic violence, he was with a fiance, then she suddenly became his wife. And, as a lawyer, you know that you can't testify against your spouse. So, he was able to, circumvent any serious charges for his behavior.
Well, give them credit for reacting so quickly, and give credit to the women that mobilized and put a lot of pressure on the NFL to take a position. They have a lot of problems with head injuries, with a lot of other issues related to, the role in society at large. So they took, I think, a very strong position. We can argue first, two. I actually was thinking, well, maybe 3 chances. But the document is strong. It builds around collaborations with women's groups, and it builds a very strong training program and awareness program for the Football League. So I think it's a good step.
I do have one concern. I'm sorry. I do have one concern about this because I worry about those women who are married to these athletes. Will they come out and say, he did this to me at the risk of him losing his career? And so there's an issue out there that we may have to readdress at some point.
These people are paid to be aggressive. It was about time, there should be no holds barred. I do think it could have been more aggressive, but I'm proud of this commissioner. He came out, and I think what he said and done will have a trickle-down effect.
I'm more shocked that the commissioner pivoted so quickly from being completely tone deaf to responding in the way that he did. You usually don't see that with sports heroes of any sort. But
I read somewhere online that it was because there was a Change.org petition signed by 140,000 people to get something done.
Yeah, but you don't always see them reacting so quickly, and I am pleased that he has done this.
So, onward and upward. Behind the headlines, in the midst of Mumbai's infamous red light district, there is one bright light: night shelters for children. The shelters offer protection and security as well as hope for a better life.
What really hit me very hard was the little infants who could not fend for themselves being mildly drugged and put off to sleep below the beds of their mothers, where the mothers were forced to service customers. It was that sight, and it was all that was happening to the children in the evenings that actually got us to think about how can we protect these children.
Seeing that problem, social worker Preeti Patkar envisioned a simple solution. She set up night shelters for at-risk children and teens of Indian prostitutes. She receives awards for her work now, but that wasn't always the case.
People thought I was mad. People thought that, we were encouraging prostitutes to be even more frivolous by taking care of their children. People felt I was into something sensational. People also criticized me by saying, why should developmental funds be diverted for the welfare and development of children of prostitutes?
Despite challenges, Patkar eventually gained support and access to an empty public school classroom in one of the largest red light districts in Mumbai. In 1986, the classroom opened as the first night care center.
Today, we work in 3 red light areas, and I feel very proud to say that you won't find a single child in these 3 red light areas who's not going to school.
The shelters are not just a sanctuary for children, there are social and educational programs.
If you're talking about children's rights and we're talking about children's right to protection and development, then every child should have access to education. Because without education, we cannot be talking about development at all. So every child enrolls in a formal school, and for those who have graduated from schools, have gone to colleges.
Prostitution is legal in India, and there are estimated to be somewhere between 2 and 3 million sex workers. Many of the children of prostitutes end up as prostitutes themselves, but these shelters at least try to put an end to the cycle.
If you invest in these children and if you create the enabling environment, you can abolish intergenerational trafficking into the sex trade.
The night shelters also provide services for young women and men rescued from the sex trade.
We have an entire program for those young girls who are rescued or young women who are rescued from the sex trade. We do help them with psychosocial counseling, legal intervention, rehabilitation, and reintegration.
Patkar's night shelter serves as a model for other organizations working to eliminate intergenerational trafficking and prostitution.
We have these children coming back and talking about their stories to the mothers, to the world, to other children, inspiring them through their stories and their journey. So yeah, this is what we've managed to accomplish. And I would like to see people investing more on these children, people investing more on larger issues of gender-based violence and child protection.
I just can't imagine drugging a child and leaving it under the bed while they're having commercial sex. How did we get there, and how do we get out of there?
Astonishing figures. Really mar India. And how India got there is there's very little lack of, I guess, caring about individual lives over there. It's not America, despite it being the world's largest democracy. And it's scary that out of, in Mumbai, which is very much the New York of India, very cosmopolitan, it's a $1 billion industry just in Mumbai, prostitution that is. 82 children each day in Mumbai are forced into sex slavery.
So quickly, best way to end it?
Best way to end it is doing exactly what this organization is doing. Education, 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 pouring more funds.
I mean, this story is about the worst of India, which is the situation of the children and the prostitutes, but it's also about the best of India. I mean, that woman, what a compassionate heart, how courageous, how, her organizational skills, giving these kids a chance. It's a beautiful story.
as a child, you don't pick who you're going to be born to. And, it's unfortunate these children are having to live this life. But what a compassionate person to give them that opportunity. I mean, that's what America's about, giving opportunity to those who may not have one.
What about birth control to sex workers?
As far as that needs to be an ongoing issue when you start looking at this. But for the children who are already here, I think this is a perfect solution. It gives them an opportunity that, quite frankly, their mothers never had.
All right. That's it for this edition. Please follow me on Twitter and visit our website, pbs.org/tothecontrary. Whether you agree or think to the contrary, see you next week.
Incredible India in many ways, but my grandmother always said, she said, that's what's beautiful about America, is that each life matters there. Here, you walk down the street, there's a dead body after night, so nobody even cares. I mean, nowadays, much more, it's profoundly ingrained in the society that, you know what, each life is exceptional, and that's scary, because children go to the
thing is, it's such an extreme situation in which you have so much extreme poverty that almost to survive, you have to become.
Yes, it's generational.
I mean, you would go by